Hello. All right, well, hopefully by now you guys have been able to go check out the website. I know I've talked about it a little bit, and if not here, then out in the world if you're following me, but go to SelenaJohnsonSpeaks.com and you'll be able to find a freebie for my ultimate brain dump guide. So if you listen to the series on pause, that will ring true for you that you want to go grab that. If you haven't listened to that, go do it. But also if if you're interested in me speaking to your group or event, there's a spot for you to go check out what I can do and what I offer. And then additionally, if you're interested in finding all of these episodes to the podcast and maybe you don't want to be on social media anymore, you can go find them there. And also it's got, joining my healthy living group, which, is such a huge part of what drives me and motivates me is being in this community with people who are, just normal people trying to, do the best we can with what we're handed and come out shining. That's the goal of the group, put our best foot forward and let God do the rest. And so go check out the website. All the things are there. You can go see a little bit about me and I just want it to be a place, a resource for you, something that you can go to and can find some tools for everyday living. And it's just the beginning, you guys. I wanted this hub, or I really honestly felt God calling me to have some clarity with it. And, he was telling me to have this place that you could go to. And I know it's just the beginning. So I'll have more and more added to it and be able to offer you more and more tools. So you'll want to get in on it now so you can start seeing those things as they come out. And I want to just, invite you to my YouTube. So if you want to go to Selena Johnson Speaks is the handle for my YouTube, and you can go check out. I have my weekly pauses out there. I have some of my all of these podcasts are found out there, and then some other videos that'll be dropped in. So go check it out, subscribe, share with a friend, spread the word. There's a lot of stuff out on the internet, and some is draining and some is life-giving, and I want this place to be a place that's life-giving for you. So let's go spread that love out into the world. You guys, this episode is so great. Speaking of resources, it's interesting how God works, because I always think I'm like on the lookout for people that I want to have on the podcast. And every once in a while, somebody asks me to be on theirs, which is such a sweet treat. And Holly, who I interview in this episode, had actually asked me to be on hers. And so I was honored to be on her podcast. It was such a great conversation. And I think by the time this comes out, that will be out. So hopefully I'll be able to link that in the show notes. But either way, you'll be able to go find it on her page. But anyways, we had such a lovely conversation. And it was at the end of our conversation that I thought, well, why aren't you going to be on mine? You should be on my podcast, because this was so fun. And so I just love how, that God just kind of puts people in your lives that you're like, oh, what a great idea. So Holly was on ours here, and you guys, it was just a great conversation. She has quite the story. She shares it here, and we talk so much about how we can take something that God, can use something, let's say, that we think maybe is, the worst thing that could happen, and he turns it into something beautiful. Isn't that what he does? He makes beauty from ashes all day long, every day. And I would say in Holly's case, there's no exception. She is the result of God's grace and mercy and hand and guidance. And it's been really cool to hear how she's paying it forward in the world. And so go check her out. And she's got a podcast, as I mentioned, so you can go listen to her episodes. And then additionally, she's got tons of resources for neuro wellness and all the things that fall under that. So go check her out. And this episode is so special. Here's Holly. Hello, fellow plate spinners. I'm really glad you're here for your weekly dose of authenticity and joy. I'm Selena Johnson, and your guide through this chaos of busy lives. In each episode, we unpack real tools to conquer overwhelm and dodge burnout. It's all about creating space for what truly matters. Whether it be through solo reflections or inspiring guests, this is your sanctuary for a more centered, productive you, with a healthy serving of that joy we talked about. Get ready to hit pause on life while we dive in to some real chats. Hope you enjoy. Hey, you guys, it's our first guest of 2024. I had to think just now what the year was, but it's our first guest of 2024. And I'm excited and honored and thrilled to have Holly Huffman on, which we're going to talk all about her podcast, and Reslience Resourcing podcast. And I think I got that right. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. But Holly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm extremely honored to be here. Your podcast is excellent, and just your mindset. I mean, that is your whole thing. It seems like I am constantly inspired by you. So I feel very honored to have a chance to share on your podcast.
Yeah, well, we're swapping here. You had me on yours, and after we got done with our conversation, I was like, "Well, why aren't you on mine? I need my audience to hear you now too, because it was such a great conversation." So, yeah, I'm really happy that you're here, but really excited to get into your story because I know that you have one. We all do. And I would love for people to get to know you. So tell us first a little bit just like about yourself and where you're at in life right now. We'll get into your
Yeah.
story.
A little backstory. Well, I just work actually full time as at a chimney place. That's kind of my, I guess you could say, 9 to 5 type job. But my real passion and where I put so much of my energy any second that I have aside from that is Neuro Wellness Community. It originally was Resilience Resourcing, and that launched in 2019 with a retreat, and then from there it just kind of built on itself. We started a podcast in 2021, and then last year, this time 2023, we launched Neuro Wellness Community kind of as a hub for all things neuro wellness, because it's really the where connection empowers resilience. It's all about resilience, but a little bit more focused as well on brain health, because I have a story when it comes to brain health and a passion
Yeah.
for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to get into that too. And I think what I already know enough about your story and your podcast is that you've been able to take something that's happened in your life, and we'll talk about that, and been able to turn around and serve the Lord with this, right? So I think that's such a beautiful testimony of how we don't know what the reasons are or why, but he has a plan, and he can always use it for good, right? So
Yep.
I love that you turned that around and made it into a ministry. So tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about what got you started down that path.
Yeah, so well, if you go way back, when I was 6 years old, I was in a really severe car accident. I was airlifted to Harborview and in a coma for 2 weeks,
Mm.
because I suffered a severe traumatic brain injury when my grandpa, we were riding home from the bus stop with grandpa, my brother and sister, siblings, and we got T-boned at 60 miles per hour in a little car.
Oh.
And um, they kind of called me the miracle child, but we all honestly were miracles in that situation. And um, yeah, I got a severe traumatic brain injury, otherwise known as a TBI, and I was knocked unconscious for 2 weeks. They put me in Children's Hospital, well, Harborview first, then Children's after I started to wake up. And there's kind of a cool story with that. My dad actually was praying every day on the way to the hospital because I wasn't waking up and they weren't getting good news that I would or knew if I would. And he just had a really real heart to heart with God and said, I want your will to be done, but I want my little girl to wake up. And he
Mm.
was praying, and it happened that that was the exact moment that I woke up.
Mm.
And so,
Woo, I got chills. It's the
it's
power of
just,
prayer.
yes,
Mm.
I truly believe in God and prayer, and I would not be here if it weren't for that. So, yeah, that kind of started my journey. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn some just word recall is a lot of it, forgetting things and just
Mhm.
simple things like what's a hot dog, what's a stoplight, little things like that. But I did speech therapy for about 3 years, and then I was able to get back into things. I mean, I went back to school. I started making honor roll and doing well in school and everything. But yeah, it was quite a journey. And
Mm.
as I got older, they said because I was young when I had the traumatic brain injury that, there's things they're learning so much about the brain, and even then they didn't know all of the things that they know now. And some of it was that, you might struggle more as you mature because your brain is still developing. And so
Right.
I think it was around the time that, like, a lot of people probably heard about this with the Seahawks or with, pro football players when they have
Mhm.
concussions and CTE and all of this. It's kind of coming out that, like, there really is like long-term impacts from
Mhm.
severe traumatic brain injuries. And I was listening in because of my journey and some things that I was dealing with, and I decided that I really wanted to kind of check out what was going on with my brain as an adult.
Mm.
And so I started that journey, and I got really, really, really blessed to find an incredible mentor, therapist, coach, all of the above when it comes to brain health. She works with Olympic athletes and uh, as well as, pro, pro like
Mhm.
football players and baseball, basketball, all that stuff.
Yeah.
She's a sports psych and also works, um, kind of as a coach and mentor, like all the
It's
things. But
amazing.
I got really blessed to find her, and the rest is history. I
Mm.
had some incredible results come out of the work that I did, and I learned so much more about the brain and how important it is to always be not worrying, I guess you could say, but paying attention to our brain health. And
Mhm.
um, so, yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am
Mhm.
now. I mean, there's a lot in between, but I, I, I really, after doing a lot of work, I went back to school. I ended up getting my bachelor's in community psychology,
Mhm.
first in my family to actually get a bachelor, so that was exciting. And I after going to UW, I learned a lot in school as well, and it kind of clicked. I felt like God was really calling me to use my education and the resources that had helped me
Mhm.
to empower others to find access to these resources and empower others towards resilience, because that really was the kind of overall story of things that I'd faced and gone through, and how much community impacts our ability to be resilient. And
Mm.
so I got to work. That's
That's
why
amazing.
the first retreat was in 2019. It was really bringing these resources to people. We got the opportunity to come and offer these resources to a big, diverse audience of people, and had all kinds of different brain health modalities and holistic modalities. And um, yeah, then COVID happened. But
Yep.
yeah, it's been really exciting. So that's
Yeah.
kind of a big way of explaining all the little things that kind of added up to where Neuro Wellness finally launched.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you kind of reopened the can of worms, if you will, because that's a scary thing to do. So what do you think was that catalyst for you? I think some of us have those things that we kind of know in the back of our minds we need to dig into, or God's calling us to spend some time in that area. And I think we've also all been there where we're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to dig in. So, talk to us about that part of the process and what that was like, working that out with the Lord and how he, guided you through that. Cause that's scary, I think, too, right?
Yeah, I think honestly it was, if I'm being completely vulnerable, it was a fear thing. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of lining up the things that I was hearing with the CTE diagnoses that football players, and it was kind of all over the news like a decade ago. And
Yep.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, like these things seem very similar to stuff that I'm experiencing. Is there any way that I could have this?" And just the brain, they only still know so little of the brain. It's such a fascinating organ, but like there's just so much to still learn. And so I really, you know, I'm a huge advocate for like therapy and all of that, but I really wanted something that was, you know, looking at my brain as well as like talking about like all the things that can happen because of anything with the brain,
Right.
whether it's a physical like issue, injury, or emotional. All these things kind of are part of it. They're all
Yeah.
related. And so I really searched out for somebody that had that like specific
Mm-hmm.
expertise, and I literally cried when I talked to the to her. Like
Mhm.
it was just over the phone before I'd even met her in person. It was like she read me like a book, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like where have you
Mhm.
been all my life?" Like
Mhm.
if finally somebody understands, because having a brain injury is something a little bit more specific than,
Mhm.
any kind of emotional trauma or something else.
Mhm.
And truly, everybody has all kinds of traumas. There's
Mhm.
more to everybody's story than just, you know, even if you have a physical injury, you can also have other trauma. But yeah, it really was the fear that I think got me to kind of look into it, and people that I had around me that were, encouraging of it. But I kind of sought it out on my own. And then, um, yeah, what is actually super ironic is that the year that I did the retreat, which was bringing
Mhm.
these resources to other people because of all the healing that I'd experienced, and just feeling so like blessed and wanting to
Yeah.
share this. I kid you not, the week after I did this retreat, I got a second concussion.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was insane, like timing. And it was also the second to last quarter of my degree. And I happened to be doing my second to last quarter. One of my classes was on how to start a nonprofit, because that was kind of the route that I was going, and
Mhm.
I was doing it all on the information from the retreat. So I was basically taking all this and creating it into like a nonprofit. And it was ironic because I was now revisiting and doing all of these therapies that I was helping bring access, and I was doing
You
them
had
again.
access to them though.
Yeah, I was very blessed to have access to them.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a what why do I have to go through this all again? And
Yeah.
it brought up a whole bunch again with when you have re-traumatize your brain physically, it'll bring up kind of past emotional things and
Mhm.
physical things. And so I started doing light therapy, which this was before light therapy was a huge thing where
Like a
everybody
thing?
now
Yeah. Yeah, you
knows.
saw I got a sauna, right? I think you
Yeah,
were talking about that, and you were talking about light therapy. I was like, "I know, I'm so excited." You
yeah,
were
I
trending
should.
before it was a trend.
Yep, and I should have shown the actual light therapy device that I use. Is just a lot different than what's out there.
Yeah,
It's a very medical grade. Like I put it on my head. You can put it on different parts of your body,
that's
but
so cool.
it's photobiomodulation. That's the technical term, and it really will help regrow the brain cells. I mean, it's incredible. They're working on it for helping with dementia, possible
Mm,
Alzheimer's. Like it's pretty incredible. And so you put that on right after a concussion, it'll reduce the effects of the injury. Like I don't know exactly statistics, but something
right.
like
A lot.
a lot, like 50%, something
Yeah.
close to that. So yeah, I was really blessed to have access, but again, it was a very difficult quarter because I was having overstimulation from everything because of the
Mm,
concussion. And
mhm.
I really had to press into trusting God, like, okay, well, there's some reason that I'm going through this again
Yeah.
at this exact time. And I still to this day don't know how it's possible, but somehow, even with missing a lot of classes and having to go a little bit longer to finish the quarter, I somehow still pulled out with Dean's List and got an A on the project. And
Amazing.
it was not glory to me, it was glory to God, because
That's right.
I have these resources. And I always say you can have uh Jesus and a therapist too. And it's like you truly
It's so
God
true.
uses uses these things. So yeah, I was really excited to just feel like once I created that nonprofit, my professor was like, this is really good. Like you could just take this and start a nonprofit. But I didn't do that because I really still felt like I want to build this kind of from the ground up, and I wasn't ready. I didn't feel like it was time to launch it into like a full nonprofit yet. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. There's definitely been some things that have come up throughout it, and I just kept trusting God and taking each step, and it's really cool because I've had a lot of opportunities that I could have never expected to have.
Yeah, that's amazing. As you were talking, I was thinking about just how our stories it's so interesting to me how he takes something where you are on that side of fear, where you are like, I don't want to open this up, I'm not sure, where this is going to lead, I don't know if this is going to, I mean, even as much as like, am I financially walking into something I don't really want to open up the doors to, like, I all the things, right? You kind
Mhm.
of get way in your head about the what ifs, all of that. And I've been there where you're basically then in isolation and silent because you're like, I'm just not going to talk about this thing because it's too scary to open up and talk about. It's too scary to find help. And who do I even go to? And, I've been there,
Mhm.
and it is daunting, I think is the word I would use. And debilitating on some days where you just like, I don't want to deal with it. And then, you feel that tug, right? Where God's just kind of like drawing you closer to him and pulling you out of your own head, right? That's what I always think
Yeah.
of. Like, he's like, enough of you, let's get over here. And starts to open up those doors. And I think our encouragement, from what I hear from your story and mine, is that like stepping through those doors might seem scary and it might seem overwhelming. But I know for both of us and for so many people on the other side of that are the answers you've been actually pining for. And so the living in that space is nothing compared to the freedom after you start to find the answers. And I know like the first time I had been given a diagnosis on my stuff, I drove home just in a bucket of tears because it wasn't that I had a problem anymore. It was that the problem had a name and that I
Yeah.
could actually put work towards that. I mean, that was something I could tangibly, Google, like I could
Yeah.
actually, do
Yeah.
whatever we needed to do. And so I just love hearing that with your story too, and then that God would actually, that you even needed the resources after you went through all that is like even crazier, but that's how he works, right? He's
Yep.
an upside down kingdom. So yeah, I love that part. So let's talk about like the podcast in particular, and like what do you have guests on? I know I was on, so I assume you had other guests. And
Yep.
what are some of the things that somebody would be able to, as a resource that we can offer them here? What does your podcast offer to listeners?
Yep. Well, it's all about resourcing. It's called
Yeah,
resilience resourcing.
I love that.
And I really, during the pandemic, having launched the first retreat and having this heart to really serve and get resources out to people, and then we were stuck at home and nobody could go anywhere. And, I had to pivot a little bit and figure out, how do I keep this going? How do I share resources with people and help them not feel alone, especially during the pandemic and all the things we were dealing with? And so the podcast really is a place where you feel like you can kind of see yourself in people's stories. In fact, that's something I've noticed. Uh, I'm just about 15. I think you might have been the 15th that we just
Oh,
interviewed.
yay.
Um, so I've been doing it, not like every month, probably every few months we do a podcast, and I just keep it going because it's really empowering to other people to hear other people's stories and know they're not
Yeah.
alone. The whole goal of it is people sharing their real on their way to resilience, sharing the
Mm,
vulnerable spots. I've had so many guests share incredible stories that you like, people who've literally died and been brought back to life. And that sounds crazy, but watch Ashley Wilhelm's story. Like, it's a
mm,
real thing. Or, people who have been drug addict for 40 years in the streets of Seattle and graduated Washington State Truman Scholar and is a national spokesperson for the
mm,
nation, basically. Yeah, a national spokesperson for Overcomers Network. And just killing it, you know, and people who've been through most insane stories, but also people who've also, you know, are the everyday, you know, person, whether it's just working their 9 to 5, and it's not just because there's so much of everyone's story that relates, and that's what you really see is everybody has their own adversity that they're facing, and they, you know, really share from the heart on this and the tools that have helped them get through that adversity and how they're reaching for that dream or success and getting there. And it's been really, really fun for me. I feel like I just get really privileged to spotlight these people because they're really sharing these stories and being real so people can connect and know that, you know, overcoming adversity and resilience is possible for truly anyone.
Yes, I love
You
that.
just have to know that you have resources, that you're not alone, and that's truly the
Mhm.
whole goal of the podcast.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think that offering people examples is I mean, I know all of us, we hear somebody speak and there's just that nugget that they probably didn't even know it was a part of their speech that was going to hit you. And so I love that you're offering just this inspiration for people that when they have like one of those moments, they can be like, "Oh, yeah, like that's what I needed to hear right now in this moment." I think that's so, so good. So great. Where can people find it?
Well, the podcast is on YouTube. There's a few episodes on Spotify, but most of it's on YouTube, at Resilience Resourcing Podcast.
Okay.
So that's where the podcast is. It's also on the Neuro Wellness Community website.
Okay.
There are some episodes you can basically subscribe through the website, and then it'll take you to the podcast.
Okay. Is the Neuro Wellness Community, is that your community or is it one that somebody else runs or how does that?
Yeah, so Neuro Wellness Community is now the hub that was started last year at this time, because what happened is we started the retreat in 2019, the first resilience resourcing retreat. It was amazing. And then
Mm,
COVID happens and we start the podcast. So we had the podcast going, but we're still planning the retreats. And
mhm.
then and we started last year, we launched a panel. So we did a panel of experts. It was a live virtual panel, and we're
Oh,
working on
great.
one for this coming, hopefully February, to do another annual virtual panel, where people can come on and ask the experts their questions. So it's focused on, we always have a topic. Last year it was, how do you overcome adversity?
Mhm.
And it was people who were on the podcast who are experts in this field.
Mm.
And so we have the panel, we have the podcast, we have retreats. We're working on our next retreat to get it, you know, scheduled here soon, hopefully in the next year.
That'd be so
Um,
exciting.
yeah, so now Neuro Wellness Community is the hub for the retreats, the podcast, and the panels.
Okay, that's so great. I think that the word that keeps coming to mind as you're talking is you're giving people hope, is what you know what I mean? Like you're giving
Yeah.
them that room to believe that it doesn't have to stay the way it is today if you've got those challenges. I think that's incredible.
And I mean, honestly, I'm glad you bring that up because at the root of everything, that truly is it. I've been through some really dark times.
Mhm,
I've, you know, mental health, a lot of people now, that's like people see mental health and we understand the importance of mental health. But for a while it had such a stigma, and mental health
mhm.
is just brain health. I mean, our brain is an
Mhm.
organ, just like we have to work on our heart, we have to work that muscle, you have to work
Right.
on your brain health. And you know, I'm a big advocate of like Dr. Amen. And I don't know if you know who he is, but he
Mm,
invented the SPEC scans. He works with actually a lot of celebrities now, but I've been following him for over a decade. And
mhm.
he is a Christian as well, but he's very, very high level when it comes to he's a psychiatrist, but he's looks at the brain, like scans the brain,
Mm,
and then he's very
mhm.
holistic. I mean, really, really good. Look up Dr. Amen.
Ooh, I
But
will. I love
um
it.
that mental health, you know, there doesn't need to be a stigma. It doesn't matter who
Mhm,
you are. I truly, truly, truly encourage everyone to see a therapist. Do the
mhm,
work. All of us need to reprocess trauma, our nervous system. There's so much, um our bodies are connected, they're holistic. So brain health isn't just your brain, it's your body, and it's how it's
mhm.
connected in our nervous system and all of that. And so
Oh my gosh, yes.
um you know, I've been through a lot, and there were definitely times when I was super depressed and feeling hopeless, especially after the second concussion. Oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
was that was really hard because I was
Mm.
older, and you know, when you're 6, it's different. When you're
Yeah, you're
older, you
missing some
really
of the stuff that's happening. You're just kinda going through it, but when you're older, you
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So if I was to give the drive behind everything that I do, it is to bring people hope and for them to
Mm,
know they're not alone.
I love
We
that.
say that in the panel. This is and that there's no um, status or hierarchy or anything. You are going to see people in all of my content that are high up doctors, celebrities, national spokespeople that will be really real about the hard stuff that they've been through. And it just
Yeah.
breaks down barriers, and people know that they're not alone. And these resources are really to empower people to feel like, hey, we got this. You've got a community of people that care. And it doesn't matter even if you don't think you have any mental health, anybody can use this information. It only makes you better. It only helps you feel more empowered and inspired to believe in yourself and make things happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that it's becoming a trend to talk about mental health. Like that's okay with me. I'm okay with that being
Yeah.
trendy because I do think, I mean, you and I have talked before too, and that like my working out is my medicine for mental health. Like, I mean, it's like you said, it's all encompassing, and God made our bodies in a way where it wants all the parts of our bodies to talk to each other and to know each other and like to work with
Yep.
each other. And I think that, the more we can shine a light on, I love your encouragement for people to seek therapy because I know somebody actually really close to me who was just, has done therapy and is evolved and like has, really grown and all these things, and they were just having like a season of hard, and they said, I think I just need to go talk to my therapist. And after like one session of kind of just talking it all out, they're like, that's good. Because I said, when do you think you're going to go back? And they're like, and they like very legitimate are like, no, I think that's actually what I needed was just that, like that
Yeah.
session, and I know they'll always be there, but that's what I
Yep.
needed. And so to not think that you have to, it doesn't mean you have therapy can look different to everyone. And so
Yep.
I love your encouragement just to go check it out and to see, and it could be a counselor, it could be a psychiatrist, a therapist, whatever you're in need of, but they're there and they want to help.
I always think of therapy as like going to the gym. You go to the
Mm,
gym because you want to keep your body strong and you want to work
mm,
out, and you do that because our bodies break down. Well, our brains are the same way.
that's right.
And we often think of mental health as different than that, but it's the same thing. It's you don't have to have a problem to go to therapy. Therapy is really just to process and get deeper, and so much comes out of it. You really, I it's I do brain spotting. I have done brain spotting for quite a long time, and it's really a EMDR. It's reprocessing.
Hmm.
Our nervous system carries things that we don't even subconsciously know we're
Hmm.
carrying, and when we process them out, we become more calm, cool, collected. With
Hmm.
it's what happens. It's a
Hmm.
science. So I think it's something that everybody should invest in, and the reason why I'm so passionate about Neuro Wellness Community is the fact that these things cost money and that they're not always accessible to everyone, especially people who really want to have access to them and
Yeah, that's
can't. And
huge.
so my
Hmm.
whole goal is that because even like light therapy and the brain spotting things that I've done, I just have been blessed to have the resources to do this. But these
Hmm.
are things that top athletes use. And that's why even my professor was like, this is something that's needed because it's so like light therapy is life changing. Like these
Hmm.
nervous system reprocessing is life changing. And everyone needs to have access to these things. So
Yes,
it
yes.
truly doesn't matter if you've had a traumatic brain injury or if you've had a hard talk with a friend, like, or
Hmm.
if you're just going through life and you feel a little bit mundane, it can only help. Like this stuff is for everyone. So that's really my like I want everyone to know that there is nobody that this will not help.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, so where can people find you? Where's the easiest place for them to stop on by and say hi?
Well, I mean, you could find me just my Facebook. I'm sorry, not my. Well, I have a Facebook page, Holly
Hmm.
Huffman, or on Instagram, it's at Holly Eileen. That's my middle name. Or on my Instagram, you'll see in my bio, you can find links to at Resilience Resourcing Podcast or at Neuro Wellness Community. Um, may have them put together a little bit more soon where they're all in one spot, but for
Hmm.
now they're separate. And then www.neurowellnesscommunity.com. You can find all about everything that we do.
Perfect. And we'll put all that in the show notes. So if you're listening, you don't have to stop and write it down. You go look down below right now and you can have all of it.
Awesome.
So, okay, I'm going to ask you some fun questions that
Okay.
I want to know. So, what are you feeding your mind with right now? What are you reading or listening to? Or
I'm actually reading a book. It's a financial book.
Hmm,
Gosh, I should have looked at the actual name of the book because it's
we
I
love
just love,
financial books.
yes, budget. I'm always for learning more about budgeting and finances and stuff. But
Yeah,
I just
so
seeing if I
true.
could pull it up really quick and see the
Yeah,
name because I forgot. Atomic Habits is another one I'm
so good.
reading. One I just got done reading is Be Seen by Jen Gottlieb. She's a really
Oh,
good.
it's Be Seen. Okay, the other day when you and I were talking, I went to look it up and I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
So I'm glad I
that one.
asked you this question because I wanted to know. So Be Seen. Okay, got it.
Yep,
Perfect.
and I couldn't put that one down. It was really, really good.
Mhm.
Financial Feminist is the one that I'm reading
Ooh,
right now, and
fun.
it's very, very good because it actually goes about financial stuff with a trauma based, like understanding not just trauma, but our like how we develop our thoughts about money. So it's super,
Yes.
super good.
Yes. That's one of those things that I think I wouldn't have told you I had any issues with until I started really paying attention. I was like, oh, I do have some built-in things that
Yep,
I need to work through. So,
we all do.
yeah, exactly. What brings you joy?
Oh, so many things.
Mhm.
Really being around family is a big thing.
Mhm.
Probably one of the biggest. Time with Jesus, I just love quiet time with him and singing my heart out, praising him for everything he's done. And I don't know, just really time with people. I'm a really
Mhm.
big people person,
People
so
person. I
connecting
love
with
that.
people is big, brings me a
Yay.
lot of joy.
Yeah. What's your favorite way to pause?
Um, I actually one of the biggest things that I do is take baths.
Ooh, that's
It's
a good
very
one.
yeah.
I
It's good for your nervous system. It literally like there's science behind water and how it helps your body.
love that.
But it's just such a good habit that I try to do multiple times a week just to help me pause and calm down. So I love
Mhm.
taking my bath.
I could not agree more. It's funny because as an adult, I now see what my mom was always saying, but like as a younger, especially an adolescent, and I was maybe even a teenager, and I would kind of just be losing my mind, like dramatic, we might say.
Yeah,
And she would always, my whole life, she's like, you need to go take a bath. And like, I know it was probably code for we all need to be away from each other for a minute because I'm going to lose my marbles as a parent. But I also know that she just would always say everything's better on the other side of a bath. Go take a bath. And
that's really
she's
good.
right. So you're right.
Yeah,
That's a great way to pause. And now I'm
that's
realizing it.
awesome that she knew that. That's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you go back if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a really good, deep question, and
I know.
maybe I'm thinking a little too hard about it, but honestly, I think the biggest thing that I've come away with in my adulthood, like
Mhm.
older adulthood, um, is that, oftentimes we get caught up in impressing other people, what they call keeping up with the Joneses, and I think really living within your own limits and your own boundaries and being confident in that person that you are,
Mhm.
um, is more important than anything. Like,
I
it's
love
truly more
that.
important than trying to show or be or keep up with society in whatever way that the culture or society is making you feel like you need to. So,
Mm,
yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway in life that I've learned.
that's such good advice for all of us. What's now the fun question? What's a favorite product that you can't live without? I have to
For
say, while you're thinking, I almost for this like season, I was like, maybe I just cut that one out because we don't need to. And then I was like, but I actually selfishly love all the answers. So
A lot of
I'm
people
like, I'm
say
keeping
it's
it
super
in. Like,
interesting too.
what do you use
Y-
every day in your life?
Gosh, that is such a. I'm like,
Oh, do you want me to give you mine that's lately? Because that
yeah,
might like
yeah,
okay.
that'll get
So, because I need to share it with everyone here anyways. I am obsessed with these microfiber. They're not microfiber. They're like this soft fabric face cloths that actually like remove makeup, and they're all like clean because there's no chemicals involved. It's just the material like removes the makeup and makes my skin feel so clean
oh my
when I'm done
gosh.
washing it. So I'll link that in the show notes for everyone too, because it's like
Totally.
I literally like gave it to all the women in my life for Christmas, and I'm like everyone needs these. Everyone needs these in their life.
That's a that's good. Yeah, those things are like I use face wipes and I definitely feel like those are something I couldn't live without. I I'm probably gonna think about this all week and be like, "Oh, I should have said this or I should have said that." But the thing that comes off the top of my head is actually kind of funny because just is blankets. I'm a big
Oh, that's
like
a good
cozy,
one.
like I have to have a blanket like and to
Yes.
feel good and cozy. So I
Yeah,
don't
that's a
think I
good
could live
one.
without blankets. Like
Yeah.
fleece blankets that are really soft and
Yeah.
cozy. Yeah, especially this time of year when it's like freezing cold. So
Yes. No, that is such a good one because my oldest and I are the exact same way. Like I always just have to have something on me. Like
yeah.
like I need to have that weight, and I love that. So that's a good one. That's a good one.
But I
All
also
right.
now that I just thought of it, I should say light therapy device because
Oh, that's
that's
right. That's right.
truly,
You were saying.
truly what this is all. I should say that. I knew I was gonna think of something later. Like that's definitely something that now that I have, I don't think I could live without.
That's such a good one. Now everyone's going to be searching and looking it up too. So if you have a
And I can give you
recommendation,
the link to the one that I
yes.
have
Yeah, I
later.
want that
So
for
yeah.
sure. We'll put that in the notes too. We got a lot in the notes today. This is like a note packed
God, you're gonna yeah.
episode. All these things to put in there. Holly, I'm so grateful, first of all, that you would even ask me on to yours. And I just know that that was God presenting me like, oh, you're supposed to have her on yours. So this is really a sweet full circle. And I just appreciate you being on so much and giving us your time.
I feel so honored, so privileged to have you on mine. So I can't wait for these to be shared because you were
Yes.
an incredible person to have on and share your story and your mindset and motivation. So I just feel completely honored. It's been a blessing on both ends.
Oh, I love it. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'm just so grateful that you would take the time to be here with me today. I hope that if there's anything that inspired you or got you excited, that you would share it to social media or send me a message with any input or feedback that you have. And just really appreciate the support and the encouragement that I get from you guys all the time. I will keep showing up, and I hope you keep listening.